Would you pray with me for a moment, please? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be now and always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. It is wonderful to see special people here today. Now, you know I think you're all special. But there's some special friends of mine here today. And it is a joy to see you, to touch base with you, to see how you're doing on your journey. We have an interesting gospel this morning. It starts out, we think we're going to hear the Beatitudes. And we do hear a little bit of the Beatitudes in there. Blessed are you, blessed are you. And then we hear the woes. Woe to you who are rich. You have received your reward on earth. So as I reflected on this gospel, I thought, that's pretty darn scary. You know, woe to you who are full, because you will be hungry. So we have two different ways of looking at life. This is what I came up with. We are all blessed. We are all blessed. We don't always recognize that, but we truly are blessed beyond our wildest imagination. However, that doesn't mean that we're never going to have difficulties in our lives. That doesn't mean that we're not going to lose loved ones and be crushed by those losses. What it does mean for me is that when we go through these times, we're not alone. In Paul's letter to the Ephesians, we heard, I pray for you constantly. I remember you in my prayers. As I went through the list of names that you're going to hear today, I sit with that list and I think about the people I have served, the people who have touched my heart, the people who are hurting. And my prayer is that they always know they're not alone. It's difficult sometimes to try to figure out what the gospel is telling us in 2016 when it was written so many generations ago. And so we read it and we reread it and we try to discern what it is that we're to learn. Life is not always a bowl of cherries. Sometimes it's the pits. And I can say that because I'm human and I've experienced loss in my life also. I don't think there's too many of us who haven't. And quite often I'll ask people, what do you think your loved one would want you to do with the rest of your life? If they were here today, what would they tell you? How would they want you to live? This morning, I told a personal story of a little piece of my journey. Because next year, it will be 5 years since my husband died. I don't know where the time has gone. There's days when it feels like it was yesterday. Of course, we had the service at St. George's, and the church was packed. You might have been there. The bishop was there, and there were all kinds of clergy vested for the service. And my partner in ministry, that Rob Feed guy, he was there lining the clergy up. He was lining the clergy up. So I just stood back and I let them do their thing. Because I was preaching. And when I told my friends that I was preaching, they said, "Do we have to commit you now? Are you crazy?" But I said, who else? Who else knew my husband like I did? I hold the stories of our life. My partner, my best friend, my soulmate. So I just stood there and waited. And as I was standing there, all of a sudden, and that's about how hard the nudge was. It was hard enough that I moved. I had a nudge on my shoulder. And I swung my head around to see who was nudging me. And guess what? There was nobody there. The warden that was standing on this side of me said, "Val, what's wrong?" I said, "Nothing's wrong. Joe is here. And he's telling me I can do this. Because he's going to walk me through this." God knew I needed help. A lot of times, you'll hear people say, "Oh, that's okay. You'll get over it." No. We never get over our losses. We carry them with us for the rest of our lives. We carry our loved ones with us every day. We learn how to live with the holes they leave in our lives. Now, I don't know about you, but it's my experience that I feel my loved ones around me. I feel them. I feel their love. I feel their encouragement. And when I thought about that, I thought about Viktor Frankl's book again, Man's Search for Meaning. Has anyone ever read that book? Just a little thin book written by Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor of the concentration camps during the war. Viktor was in one camp and his wife was in another. And when they were liberated at the end of the war, they asked Viktor how he had kept going through the atrocities that we all have read about or heard about. And Viktor said, "It was the love of my wife that kept me going. Whenever I felt like I couldn't go on, I could feel her encouraging me. Whenever I felt like I wanted to give up, I could not do this one more day, I felt her lifting me up so I could face another day. What Victor didn't know when he answered that question was his wife had died in the other camp. She had died, but he still felt her love and her support. Statement from that little book is here in my heart. Love transcends death. We can be separated from our loved ones by millions of miles, and yes, even death. But nothing will ever separate us from the love that we've shared. That love carries us at times. That love kicks us in the butt sometimes. That love is always with us. Now, this morning we have a fairly new person with us, a new little person. Look at all that hair. I'm so glad that baby's here. Because when we see these babies, they remind us that in the midst of death, life goes on. Life goes on. And in the midst of our hurting and mourning and grieving, there can still be joy. Life has a way of throwing us curveballs. We never know what we're going to have to deal with next. And I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because that enables us to live in the moment. Now, sometimes those moments are going to be sad. Sometimes those moments are going to bring us pain. But sometimes those moments are going to bring us joy and laughter and fun. It's all part of life, and it's all part of our journey, each and every one of us. You know what they say, there's two things in life that none of us are exempt from. Death and taxes. How well we know. So today we gather in remembrance. We gather in a special way to mark special people in our lives. Some of those people I journeyed a long time with, and some for a short time. But everyone has touched my heart, and I pray for them. And I consider that a privilege. Because people allow me into their lives at their most vulnerable time. And they allow me to try to care for them. And in doing that, what they don't know is that they care for me. Because this is a two-way relationship. We care for each other. Whew. So it's kind of a heavy day in a sense. I already have put my leaf up there. I could put many leaves up there, as I imagine many of you can. And as you write those names, remember your loved ones. Think about the good times you had. Think about something they might want to tell you, or you might want to tell them. remember. Remember. We are blessed. And you know, even in the midst of our darkest hour, we are still blessed. We are doubly blessed because we're not alone. All of us are together. We all hurt together. We all laugh together. We all love together. I want you to remember that. You're never alone. And the most important thing is that God watches over each and every one of us. We don't have to tell God how we're feeling. God already knows. God experienced grief. Jesus experienced grief with the death of his friend. They know. And they're with us, carrying us sometimes, pushing us sometimes, encouraging us sometimes, and sometimes giving us a kick in the butt. Because sometimes we need that. We need to be reminded to live life in the moment. You'll hear me say, life is short. We have not much time to gladden the hearts of those who journeyed the way with us. Let's remember that. And let's give thanks to God for all the love we've experienced in our lives. Amen.